What's up, everybody? I finally got around to seeing Fate of the Furious. Originally, I wanted to see this movie as soon as it came out. I just was kind of busy, so it took me a while to get to it. But now that I have seen it, I'm going to do a countdown from what I feel is the weakest movie in the series to the strongest Fast and Furious movie. Now, of course, I know some people will disagree with me, and you can kindly do so down in the comments. Just let me know why you might disagree. And, that's all good. Of course, we all are going to view this differently. I will say this, let me go ahead and establish this up front. Even though I'm going to start off with the weakest and work my way up to what I feel is the strongest, I feel like this is a consistently entertaining series. I mean, it's nothing like Oscar worthy or anything like that, but it doesn't always have to be about that. Some movies can be just about fun. And I really think that's what this series is mainly about. It's about, just entertainment, just pure entertainment. So, I do think it's a solid series overall, so just keep that in mind as I run through these. So let me go and start off with what I feel is the weakest movie in the series. Probably not a surprise to anybody. The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. I mean, it's not just at the bottom because it doesn't feature the lead actors, including Brian, played by Paul Walker, and then Dom, played by, Vin Diesel. It's not just about that, and I know it does have a cameo by Vin Diesel. But the leads that we did get for this movie, just not super interesting to me. We had Sean Boswell, played by Lucas Black, and then Twinkie, played by Bow Wow, which, yeah, it's just, so, I mean, some weird casting there. We also had the character Han, who was introduced and did become a regular in the series, which was a little bit confusing, but because we do find out later on that Tokyo Drift takes place in a not exactly where you originally thought within the timeline, which is fine. I mean, it seemed kind of like a desperate attempt to fit all the movies together, but I appreciate that they did that all the movies actually do fit together. Actually, funny, it's kind of crazy that Fast and Furious actually has better continuity than some other major franchises, but yeah, so I mean, that worked overall, but there are a lot of things about the movie that were just that don't hold up. That's the main thing. I mean, drifting at the time, I think, was very eye-catching. A lot of people were into checking it out. I remember even G4 TV had a series based around drifting, so it was kind of that, hot for the moment type of thing. But I think overall the movie doesn't hold up in that way. Villains not super interesting. Although I mean, even the action sequences were just okay. There was a really nice chase through Tokyo towards the end. That was pretty cool, but the final race, it didn't do much for me overall. I mean, there was a nice cameo by Sonny Chiba, that was cool, but overall, just, yeah, definitely the weakest in the series to me. At number 7 for me is Too Fast, Too Furious. This was, the first sequel. I wouldn't say that it suffered necessarily from sequelitis. I don't think that's really what it was, but Vin Diesel not being in it, his character was definitely missed. It did introduce Roman Pierce, played by Tyrese, which is not a surprise because this movie was directed by John Singleton, and John Singleton had already worked with Tyrese on Baby Boy, so it's really not a surprise that he included him in the movie. One thing that John Singleton did with this movie that to me just didn't work so well, and he talked about this in the director's commentary, he was very much inspired by video games like Need for Speed when he directed the action sequences and the races. And you can really see that because that movie has more CGI, or at least more clear CGI, more recognizable CGI than probably any other movie in the series. And for me, it just kind of took me out of the movie. This movie did introduce some other mainstay characters, like I said already, Roman Pierce, played by Tyrese. We also got Tej, played by Ludacris. Monica Fuentes, played by the gorgeous Eva Mendes. And one character that was introduced, and I'm actually glad she did not become, a mainstay in the series, was Suki, played by Devin Aoki. She just kind of annoyed me, to be blunt about it. I did not like that character. Her lines weren't great, and the way she delivered them, the actress delivered them, weren't great. So I felt like she was like placed in there as eye candy, and she just, I mean, that was pretty much it. So yeah, Too Fast, Too Furious, solid. I mean, still entertaining, just not that great. Number 6, what I feel is number 6 is Fast and Furious. So this is actually the 4th movie in the series. It did manage to bring back Paul Walker and Vin Diesel together. But overall, it just wasn't a very memorable movie to me. There are so many details about it I feel like I've forgotten, and I like have no urge to watch that movie again. I mean, it did kind of, it tried to give some depth to it with the death of Letty being announced, but yeah, overall it just it's not very memorable to me. It had a very weak twist in terms of who the villain was. It's like I really didn't care. And as far as the action sequences are concerned, I will give it props for the final like chase or race, whatever you want to call it. They would do these underground tunnels. That was intense. I really did enjoy that. You know, I mean, there was obviously some CGI work involved there, but it was done pretty well. But overall, just not a super memorable movie. I mean, solid. And, you know, and it did, I feel like, get the series kind of back on track, you know, with the main cast. But overall, just not very memorable. So that's why it's kind of towards the bottom of the list. Next up here, the fifth movie, I would say Fate of the Furious, you know, the one that was just released. This is the eighth movie in the series. At what happens sometimes with long-running franchises, they get to a point where they almost feel like a mockery of themselves or like a parody of themselves, and I think that's where this movie kind of lands for me. I mean, it's still entertaining, obviously, but there are definitely some issues with it too. Let me give you some positives real quick. I will say, in terms of emotion, Vin Diesel really got to deliver some emotion in this movie. He wasn't just a complete tough guy. And it did have some emotional depth to it. I think even more so than when his character was dealing with the death of Letty. So I really did appreciate that. And when the trailers were first coming out, a lot of people were like, why would he turn against, you know, his family, as he calls it? Why would he do that? It seemed like it could be just going in a negative direction, but they actually explained it, you know, in a satisfying way. And I'm glad they didn't wait too long in the movie to reveal why he was doing the things that he was doing. So I was like, okay, I'm on board with that, and I can understand. I think Charlize Theron was another good positive, probably the best villain in the series to me, because yeah, Jason Statham is the villain, but I'll get to him, you know, pretty soon here. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and address the negative. The way Jason Statham was used in this movie, I did not like it, especially his final action sequence was just horrible. I thought tonally it was like a completely different movie. Some of the jokes just, not only did they not land, they made me cringe. I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing this, and that they just kept it going too. Like, it was several times that they cut back to that action sequence, and I'm like, the first moments didn't work, and they just kept it going, and it was just so annoying. Like, that did not work for me. I think this movie, more than any other, revealed that, to me, Roman Pierce, played by Tyrese, yes, he, in terms of just the movies, he's there to deliver humor, and he does that great. But in terms of, if you think about the actual plot, you could pretty much lift that character out of the franchise, because he doesn't really add much to it in terms of plot. So yeah, I think this movie made that more obvious than any others, especially towards the end of the movie, like the third act, and they're on this big mission, and you're like, why is he here? Like, realistically, why would he be there? And Tej also, I feel like that character's kind of jumped the shark, because he went from being a guy that knew a lot about cars, and he obviously was tech savvy from the beginning, but now he's like this world-class hacker. It's like he's better than anybody that we apparently have in the CIA or NSA or any of those organizations. And it's like, okay, how is he like this level of genius all of a sudden? Like, they really have pushed things too far with that character to me. So like I said, I still feel like the movie was entertaining, but it definitely has some issues. Though I feel also the last action sequence, which we knew was going to be way over the top because we got glimpses of that in the trailer, I thought it was actually pretty solid, but it went on maybe a little bit too long though. And normally I would say, more action better, but no, I think that one dragged on just a little bit too long, but still entertaining enough of a movie, I would say. What I'm placing at number 4 is Furious 7. And this actually, of course, was the 7th movie in the series. Last movie with Paul Walker, so it definitely had emotion on it, on a real level. And even within the movie, the way they handled it, very tastefully handled, by the way. I definitely appreciated that, and it was a very emotional ending. With Paul Walker's loss, it was just so heavy on the movie. Now, focusing on the movie itself, obviously with his passing, not the filming hadn't been completely done, and that is apparent at certain moments. There may be, I would say, at least 3 scenes where it's very obvious, especially a fight scene sequence with Tony Jaa. I'm assuming that he had already passed away at that point because they really keep it in the shadows, and I almost feel bad for Tony Jaa because this was like his first big American movie, and he didn't really get to shine as much as he probably could have because they had to film it that way, but I mean they had to work with what they they could do there. Also, Jason Statham as a villain, like I said, I really like Jason Statham, I really do, but plot wise something didn't make sense to me. Okay, the big focus of the movie was the God's Eye, which is this computer program that can locate anybody in the world. And I was like, apparently Jason Statham just has this built in because wherever they went, he popped up. He was like the Terminator in that movie. Like everywhere they went, okay, he was there. But I still like him, of course, as an actor. And action sequences in this particular movie were great. I mean, they really were. I definitely liked the jumping from the cars from building to building in Dubai. That was awesome. That was like in the trailers, I was like, that's so over the top, but within the actual movie, it's still over the top, but it was really entertaining. Definitely brought a smile to my face. One thing that surprised me about this movie is the Rock's character, Luke Hobbs. He was barely in it. I think he may have had maybe 3 scenes at the most. Like he's barely in it, and I think that ended up being kind of a bone of contention when they got ready to do the 8th movie. If you follow the media, you heard about that kind of beef between The Rock and Vin Diesel. I think that's all what it was all about. It came down to screen time. So yeah, that was a surprise, but the movie wasn't all about his character though. So I mean, it was also, I think it was actually reasonable that they didn't force him in more, so I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, Furious 7, I was definitely entertained overall with the movie. We're down to the top 3. At number 3, I would say Fast and Furious 6. So this one is where, to me, the movie really started to move from focusing on them as a crew to more as a family. And I did like that element of it. And I think the stakes were pretty high in this movie, especially with the return of Letty. That to me really was that thread through the movie that just kept giving it depth. Luke Evans as Owen Shaw, I think he did a pretty solid job. And that action sequence at the end, on the plane, that was just awesome. I really did like that action sequence. I especially like The Rock and Vin Diesel going up against the villain's like main muscle, that just huge guy like that, and that move that they pulled off, that like tag team move that they pulled off on him, that was just awesome. Like there was a huge cheer in the theater when I saw that, because this movie, I mean, this franchise, I've seen most of these in the theater when they first came out. So yeah, that was a big moment there. And yeah, overall it was a good movie and a really solid ending too. I mean, and the humor really worked. Probably well, I don't know, it's kind of hard to rank Tyrese, but yeah, Tyrese definitely had some good lines throughout this movie, and The Rock as well. They had a great improvised moment towards the end. So yeah, it is really entertaining. At number 2, I would say the first movie in the series, The Fast and the Furious. This one set the foundation. At the time, I didn't think about it, but reviewers have pointed it out, and I'm like, yeah, it's true. This basically was basically Point Break with cars. So very similar plot, but it worked. And this one, what I mainly liked about it is not only did it introduce a lot of people to street racing and car culture, but also, since it was the first movie in the franchise, there really was like no telling what would happen. So there was a sense of uneasiness. There was some drama, within it, suspense that to me really worked, because I really didn't know where this movie, might go. Towards the end, I kind of got a feel for how it might actually end. But yeah, it was solid though. And Jordana Brewster, another gorgeous actress in the series. I think she did pretty well in it. And I really would like to see more of her in movies. But yeah, she was great in that. So and Rob Cohen being the first director in the series, very solid with his directing. So Yeah, it was just that solid foundation that really launched this franchise. And I know some people say that the movies are going way over the top, and yes, they have. But you got to remember though that from the beginning, these movies were kind of over the top. If you really go back and look at the first Fast and the Furious and the way that they were like robbing these moving vehicles and stuff, I mean, there was some stuff that's kind of over the top from the beginning. I guess it just felt a little more grounded though. But yeah, really solid start to the series. And I really did like Paul Walker's performance in that because I think he played the that conflicted aspect pretty well. Of wanting to do the right thing in terms of the law, but also do the right thing for these people that are not completely bad people. So yeah, really solid start to the series. So that brings us to number one. Number one for me has got to be Fast Five. That movie absolutely blew me away. I saw it in the theater, absolutely loved it. I thought it had beautiful scenery with it, a lot of scenery set in Brazil, just gorgeous. It brought the crew back together. It had that really strong Italian job vibe to it, which I really appreciated. And it was clever. I mean, a lot of the writing was clever within it. It definitely started also to veer towards the family focus, especially with Paul Walker's girlfriend, Vin Diesel's or Dom's sister announcing her pregnancy, which was big. And I did like that moment where, even though it felt like kind of a quick turn, but I know Dom went from being like really upset and just, irate about things that were going on. And then once she announced the pregnancy, like immediately he dropped all that and he was like, we're going to be together. We're going to work this out. That was cool. It had a great fight between The Rock and, Vin Diesel's character. And it also introduced us to Luke Hobbs, which was big for the franchise. Obviously, that breathed new life into the franchise. So, yeah, I thought this was a really solid movie. I still love that movie. And also, it was I want to say the first movie that had a mid-credit scene. And it was a powerful one to find out that Letty, would still be alive. Like when I was in the theater, and again, a huge reaction. There was like this big gasp when people found out that Letty may still be alive. So yeah, just really entertaining movie. Definitely number one for me. I think it's number one for a lot of other people as well. You all can let me know how you feel. How would you rank these movies down in the comments, or at least let me know what's your least favorite and what's your most favorite. But I'm interested to see where they go with the last two films, because I think they are going to a number 10. So and the Fate of the Furious definitely sets up a continuation of where they left things off. Although I would be fine with them maybe scaling back on characters a little bit, because there are some characters that return that I feel like maybe don't need to be back in it. We'll see what happens there. But like I said, I just want to hear your thoughts about this film franchise overall. Definitely let me know what you thought about the Fate of the Furious, because I had so many mixed feelings on that movie. I guess I just expected more out of it, especially the humor. I wish the humor had really delivered a lot more. But like I said again, I was entertained by it, like I've been entertained by all of these movies. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Like I said, I look forward to reading your comments. I definitely appreciate any feedback, and I'll talk to you all again real soon.